Gentlelady yields. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Carter, for his 5 minutes of questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for being here, Deputy Administrator. Ms. Brandt, professionally, I'm a pharmacist, so I've dealt extensively with Medicaid and Medicare, and particularly with reimbursement, having owned my own business for so many years, 32 years. And I know that firsthand how important the dollars spent and making sure that they are appropriately spent to support legitimate care for the patients who truly need it. Unfortunately, we've seen a lot of fraud schemes, and they continue to evolve, and they often target areas of a program where reimbursement is high or oversight may be more challenging. One area that's seen dramatic growth in Medicare spending in recent years has been the use of skin substitute products for wound care. It's very important. We need that. We need skin substitute products for wound care, but what we've seen has obviously been out of control, and I applaud the agency for addressing that. But these products do play an important role in treating chronic wounds, but the rapid spending growth, as I say, and the unusual billing patterns have raised concerns that some providers might be overutilizing these products or billing for services that may not be medically necessary. Can you answer me this? Medicare claims for skin substitutes, since they've grown so dramatically, what are the most common waste, fraud, and abuse indicators that CMS has identified in this area?
Well, what we've seen is an exorbitant rise in the number of claims submitted for those. I gave an example earlier, but in the fraud war room, we've actually seen numerous examples of beneficiaries who have had thousands of skin substitute claims submitted just for one beneficiary, which would mean that that was practically impossible. They would be covered in skin substitutes.
It's been pretty obvious, is what you're telling me.
Correct.
And I would agree it has been. But again, we got to be careful because it is important. We don't want amputations, particularly in patients, as we all know, diabetic patients, if get a wound on their lower extremity, it's going to be awful, and it's going to result in a lot of times in amputation. But what kind of countermeasures is CMS implementing to reduce the wasteful and sometimes medically unnecessary use of the skin substitutes?
Republican Buddy Carter, a pharmacist before Congress, is pressing CMS Deputy Administrator Kimberly Brandt on the biggest fraud explosion in Medicare history: skin substitutes, real products for real wounds, especially for diabetics facing amputation. But Medicare spending on them jumped from $256 million in 2019 to over $10 billion in 2024. A 40-fold increase while patient volume only doubled. That's not demand. That's billing games. And the official answering for it runs CMS's fraud war room, the same Kim Brandt that House Democrats just accused of misleading Congress under oath about cutting Minnesota off from Medicaid funding. Keep that context in mind as she answers the next question.
Well, there's a couple of different things that we've done because we agree with you. We want the people who need those services to be able to get them. I have family members who are diabetic who have had wounds that have required those, so I know how vitally important they can be. However, what we have done is we changed the payment structure for skin subs, which starting January 1st, under the new payment rules, we've seen a 99% reduction in billing for skin subs. We have not seen a correlative rise in people coming to us and saying they don't have access to skin subs. We've also done letters to hundreds of skin subs providers where we sent them letters saying, hey, Dr. Carter, did you know that your billings were 10 times more or 4 times more what those of your colleagues are? You should just be aware that we're keeping an eye out of it. As a result of those letters that we sent out, we had an over 60% rate of people just dropping out immediately and not billing for skin subs anymore. The remainder stopped billing for skin subs, but kept billing for everything else.
And that's great, and I applaud you for that. That's what you ought to be doing. That's what we're expecting you to do. Have we had any results in seeing more amputations? I mean, is there any way, how are we ever going to quantify that?
So we have not seen a correlative rise in the number of people that need or are expecting to receive skin substitute as a result. And as I said, once we have changed the payment structure as of January 1st, we have received, to my knowledge, no pushback from the beneficiary community saying that they don't have access to being able to get that care. We continue to work with and would obviously respond if those beneficiaries would come forward and could point to us where those problems were occurring, and then we would obviously revisit our approach. But
Okay.
as of right now, we're good.
Okay. Well, I know you find it hard to believe, but I got a bill that addresses this.
I'm shocked by that,
It is
sir.
the Skin Substitute Access and Payment Reform Act, and it would modernize the payment system for skin substitute products. I'm just worried we swung the pendulum too far. I know it's got to swing back, but I'm just scared we may have swung it too far and that we're going to get adverse effects as a result of that. But my bill puts an end to runaway prices and inappropriate prescribing by implementing new program integrity reforms and ensuring that patients that in need receive affordable, accessible, and high-quality care. So I invite all of my colleagues to sign on to it. I hope y'all will look at it, and I know that the agency is. I've been in touch with them, and we're trying to address this. I'm running out of time, but I want to mention also, in my practice of pharmacy, I was very involved in hospice care, and I can tell you, I saw the proliferation of hospices as a result of overbilling and just the fact that there was a lot of problems in that area. So I appreciate your attention to that as well.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
It needs to be very much focused on.
Well, and
Thank
please
you.
understand, I'm not criticizing you on the skin products. I'm just saying we got to find a happy median there, okay?
Understood. Thank
Okay,
you so much.
thank you. I yield back.
The gentleman yields.
Here's what Brandt just admitted. One letter, not a raid, not an arrest, a letter saying we're watching you, made 60% of skin substitute billers disappear overnight. The new payment rule cut billing by 99%. That's not fraud at the margins. That's a multi-billion-dollar racket running in plain sight while Medicare wrote the checks. CMS now projects the fix will save $19.6 billion in 2026 alone. So where was that letter 5 years ago? Where was that rule when spending climbed from $256 million to over $10 billion in just 5 years? Carter is right to worry about the diabetic who actually needs a graft. But the real story is that this was this easy to stop, which means somebody chose not to. Hit subscribe and tell me in the comments, do you trust this war room to clean house?